We're ready.
All right. Welcome to the February 23rd, 2026 Site Plan Review Committee Subgroup Meeting for the 4420 Fairfax Drive project. We'll be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia for the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the Waverly or for the 4420 Fairfax Drive project are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment, cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will work. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project page, the county's events calendar, and the email notifications sent to the SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there's a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it is appropriate to turn it on in a moment. The Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes. For SPRC group members who need technical assistance, and for members of the public to add their names to the list of public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who were planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. If subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. I, Peter, and myself, and Dan as well, I guess, will be monitoring the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone without the video option, please announce your name and group you're representing now, and I will verbally check in to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have the video feed option. To unmute yourself, please select *6. So I guess if anybody's here by phone, let me know. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called upon to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted roughly 2 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda items. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have in this meeting. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees or provide staff with your name in person. We have the sign-in sheet as well as the public comment sheet on this back table over here. So I'd like to mosey on over. Sign in and leave your name for public comment. And lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act requirements. And with that out of the way, we should do a quick round of introductions. My name is Tony Striner. I'm chairing this SPRC and I'm representing Planning Commission.
Emily Peterson, Planning Commission.
I'm John Carden with ARIA Development Group, here representing ARIA Boston LLC, which is the applicant.
Ryan Gavin, representing the Continental Condominium, the condominium.
Meg Flores, I'm the representing member from the Transportation Commission of Arlington.
Randy Painter, Boston, Virginia Square Civic Association.
Steve Sockwell, Forestry and Natural Resources Committee.
Jim Lantelli, Planning Commission.
Thea Bagley, Planning Commission.
Paola Modell, Planning Commission.
Peter Robertson, Planning Commission.
Daniel Creed, Arlington County, DES.
Peter Schultz, the Arlington County Planning Division of CPHD.
Okay, and do we have any SPRC members who are not at the table?
I do, from DRC, Jill Barker.
Ocean bed climate change.
I'm a pedestrian advisory committee.
Kenny, we're representing Continental Condominium.
Okay, and are there any groups, commissions, committees online who'd like to represent and check in now?
Yeah, Joe Ventrone, Housing Commission.
Okay.
Elizabeth Prio, Disability Advisory Commission.
What's the name?
Karen Cavada, Planning Commission.
Right. Assuming that is everyone, we've got a packed house in here today. So again, as a reminder, we'll be going over the following topics: parking and loading / transportation, land use and density, site design and layout, building height, form, and architecture, and then we'll wrap up with public comment. But without further ado, I would turn it over to Peter, who will give the staff presentation. And Dan too.
Yes. You see if this works? Peter Schultz from the CPHD Planning Division, and I hope we're all here for the 4420 Fairfax Drive, Terramont site plan. The site plan here is the agenda posted online and on the screen here. You notice if we switched around the discussion topics a little bit. However, our presentation is going to follow the traditional because it makes a little more sense, the traditional, but we just anticipated that there's going to be a lot of discussion about parking and loading and transportation. Might as well just put as much time as we can to that. There will be a public comment period at the end for people who are not members of the SPRCs for about 2 minutes each. To remind everybody where we are, this is the 4420 Fairfax Drive location on the south side of Fairfax Drive, an existing office building. Close up of the site here, it is bounded by on street on the right, but private alleys to the south and east that are all part of the site plan 331 overall site plan. Existing conditions you see most people are familiar with. It's a 5-story office building that was built in the 60s and added on to renovated over the years. I am showing you some of these existing conditions. I would hope most people familiarize them. This corner on the left here is going to be the future location of metro elevators, which Daniel will tell you about a little more later. On the right, you get a sense of the alley system, which is private. There is a fire access easement over them. It does provide service access and parking garage access to the Continental. And the existing office building had a small parking lot to the right of its own. To give you an overview, what the applicant is proposing is something that was actually proposed and approved 20 years ago, but remains unbuilt to this day just because of economic issues. What the Fairmont Building number 5 here is going to be added to the site plan 331. So what it is it's adding site area to the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 buildings of this current Arlington Gateway site plan, which includes office building, 2 office buildings, a hotel, and a condominium development immediately south of the Fairmont building. So we'll make the site plan bigger. Is basically what it is. The proposed development here, as you are aware, is a largely similar to the 2006 approved development with a maximum building height of 246 feet, which is the absolute maximum permitted by the zoning district, as long as the developer provides a package of benefits that justify the extra height and density. It is constrained, and you're going to see the site area, the small site area, as you might have guessed from
The Bernstein Bowline.
outlines.
Woodward and Bowline.
We have a live mic.
Honey, yeah, that's my wife. You're great. Your microphone's on, my dear. So anyways, a very tiny site plan site area, I should say. The actual land that the Fairmont owns is very small. The alley network is actually owned by the Continental, so that we will see. Anyway, so I'll give you a brief description of what's going on here. There is less parking than was approved in 2006, which is, consonant, as Daniel will tell you, with county practice in the last and policies that we have adopted in the last 20 years, especially on top of a metro entrance. There is a requested modification for the number of loading spaces, and later on you'll see a question that we would like to, staff would like to hear the SPRC opine on about the depth of the proposed loading spaces. Zoning modifications, as I alluded to, additional density, 30 feet of additional height, those are all permitted by the zoning ordinance as long as there is say community benefits as a shorthand. It's items allowed by our zoning ordinance for environmental benefits or housing or community community facilities. A reduction of the zoning ordinance required parking ratio. And there may be some landscaping modifications from the zoning ordinance. We can see as we progress through this SPRC. The zoning is a special zoning district for Ballston. The zoning and the glove match. So this site is already, so it's not asking for a rezoning or a change to the general land use plan. All of central Ballston is zoned the same. With a actually, the idea of this central Ballston district was to basically be a second downtown to Arlington after Rosslyn. And the idea when developed in the late 70s and early 80s was actually to encourage residential development. At the time, there are incentives for residential development in this special zoning district, as we will see when we come forward. So the policy guidance is the Ballston Sector Plan, which was developed in 1980, but many of its recommendations are still valid, and it has good urban design recommendations. The zoning ordinance requirements in the COA zoning district, the master transportation plan and its various elements that Daniel will speak to, Rosslyn Ballston streetscape standards, Arlington's retail plan, off-street parking guidelines for multifamily residential projects in the Rosslyn Ballston Richmond highway corridors, and other things like the community energy plan or the affordable housing. The land use and density, the sector plan does plan this area for high density mixed use. I spoke to about the incentive for residential development. Densities are allowed, at least by the base density in the zoning districts, of up to 6.0 FAR, which is the second highest outside of Rosslyn. With office is supposed to be no more than half that. In the early 80s, there was an imbalance of office development as opposed to residential development. So this was intended to incentivize residential development. Also to consolidate large sites too. So the actual density and height that you qualified for would actually depend on the site area that you had assembled as a development site. So the applicant's proposal is in line with what the sector plan says, residential use and retail. The density is about 9 FAR just on the site area alone, well over this. However, because it's incorporated into the site plan 331, all those 5 buildings of site plan 331 would only be slightly over 6.0 FAR altogether. But the developer is going to earn, as they did in 2006, the density, about slightly less than half of the density on the site to be earned through that zoning ordinance provision where, again, green building techniques, community facilities, affordable housing contribution or on-site units. And there is a little less retail at this site than the 2006, about just under 5,000 square feet. The sector plan had no specific recommendations for the site design and layout of the site. For this particular one, it did say there should be ground floor retail. And the retail plan, Fairfax Drive, we've gotten more granular on our retail recommendations. It's retail or retail equivalent. Retail equivalents, for those of you familiar with our retail plan, are things that could generate the same kind of foot traffic and interest, but are not retail per se. And they could be medical offices, they could be health facilities, health clubs, items like that. Sector plan, the master transportation plan, Rosslyn Ballston streetscape standards call for a 24-foot total streetscape with a minimum 16-foot clear on Fairfax Drive. Fairfax Drive was intended to be sort of a boulevard type concept. 14-foot total streetscape on North Vermont Street, about 8 feet clear. The developer, I should mention, is providing in the site design and layout a 24-foot setback from the curb. So it does meet that 24. However, the current set of plans that we have, and staff and the applicant have started to talk about this. We do have lobby and retail on the Fairfax Drive frontage as contemplated by the sector plan and our Arlington retail plan. The building is 24-foot setback. Right now, the plans only show an 8-foot clear sidewalk. There is landscaping that the developer has proposed that reduces the clear sidewalk. However, there is that 24-foot to the closest part of the building to the curb. There is an adequate 6-foot planting strip at the side. and ability to accommodate any future development of Fairfax Drive, which Daniel is going to be talking about. There is a 16-foot setback proposed on Vermont Street. The parking and loading comes from the private alleys, and good urban design practice is that parking and loading does not come off major arterials like Fairfax Drive. People would have to come into either Vermont, Fairfax Alley or Vermont Street and come in to, as you will see later, the loading is off of the Vermont Alley and parking entrance is off of the so-called Fairfax Alley. There is a bike room and it's accessed directly from Vermont Street on ground level, as that is something we encourage. So here, this shows the site design and layout, the residential lobby, and then between two retail equivalents, and the retail is adjacent to a proposed plaza around by the elevators. And again, Mr. Creed will be telling you more about the county's plans for the elevators. You see the loading that comes off of the back of house that comes off of the Vermont Alley. Above grade transformers, which staff has noted as an issue. The width of the transformers faces private property. The county's policy on transformers is if they have to be above ground, and it seems like Dominion has been forcing things that way, let's make them look as good as possible. Rights of way, which Vermont Street will stay as a public right of way. We've just confirmed that with the applicant. They're not vacating Vermont Street. It will stay. However, Vermont Street right now does come to an end, and then it is private, shared between the Continental and the hotel. So let me speed things up. Turn it over to Daniel.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. I'm Daniel Creed with the Department of Environmental Services, and I'll be covering the transportation. I'll be covering the transportation topics. So the site is, as Peter mentioned, is at the corner of North Vermont and Fairfax Drive, and it's well served by a variety of multimodal transportation options. Within an 1/8 mile of the site is the Boston MU Metro Rail Station, which is serviced by the Orange and Silver lines. There's also local and regional buses available at the Boston Station bus bays. And on site, there is an existing BART and Metro bus stop at the corner of North Vermont and Fairfax. There's also several Capital Bike Share stations located within the vicinity, including Fairfax and North Taylor, North Stewart Street, North Tazewell, and Glebe, and 11th Street, Glebe and 11th Street. As Peter also mentioned, the site is subject to transportation policy found in the Master Transportation Plan, the Roslyn-Ballston Corridor Streetscape Standards, and the Ballston Boulevard Area Plan, also known as the Sector Plan. And on the right, you can see an excerpt of the Master Transportation Plan map with the site highlighted. The MTP identifies the adjacent segment of Fairfax Drive as a Type A, primarily retail-oriented mixed-use arterial road, and they plan for a 2 to 4 travel lanes, turn lanes, no medium priority, restricted or limited driveway access, and a high on-street parking priority. And for North Vermont, the MTP plans for it's depicted as a non-arterial local, which is planned to contain up to 2 travel lanes, low or no medium priority, no restricted or limited driveway access, and high on-street parking priority. And the RB Streetscapes standards provide additional guidance, which I'll cover on a later slide.
Do you mind covering the pedestrian component before we move on? I know that both of the plans have a pedestrian on the previous slide. I think you covered everything but pedestrian. I can't read that.
Which portion?
Pedestrian way. What are the Type A and you covered the key at the bottom with the on-street parking priority being high and all of those details, but I can't read the pedestrian way.
The neighborhood streets section.
No, the last.
Oh, the pedestrian way. Oh, so
Yes.
that MTB, which there's further guidance higher, but for Type A, it's 10 to 16 feet sidewalk. The 6-foot furniture zone or tree pits for the Type A And for the non-arterial urban local, 6 to 8 foot sidewalks with a 4 to 6 foot green strip.
But the Rosslyn Ballston corridor streetscape standards exceed those requirements. They have additional requirements. Which I think you covered.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You can cover.
So now we'll cover the proposed site access. So on screen, you will see and the site with the north oriented to the top of the screen. As Peter mentioned, the garage entrance, loading, and trash are all accessed from private two-way off-street alleys, which we've referred to as Fairfax Alley and Vermont Alley. So Fairfax Alley is accessed directly from Fairfax Drive, and Vermont Alley is accessed North Vermont Street, and you can see those two purple arrows indicating that. And again, these are privately owned, off-site, and owned and maintained and under the control of the Continental Condominium Association. And so for parking, the applicant proposes a below-grade 2-level garage, which is accessed from the east side of the site, shown in yellow, or from the Fairfax Alley. The applicant is proposing 78 residential spaces at a ratio of 0.25 spaces per unit, and I will cover those tabulations in a little bit more detail on the next slide. For loading, the applicant proposes 2 loading spaces, and those are accessed from the south side of the building, shown in red, or from Vermont Alley. I've also highlighted for reference the neighboring Continental condos loading and garage entrances. Those are red and yellow as well, but are dotted. And those are to the south, and I'll cover those loading tabulations here shortly. For bike parking, there are 122 Class 1 bike spaces across 2 bike rooms. As Peter mentioned, one is on the ground level, which is the pink arrow. And the other portion of the bike room is on the P1 level, the first level of the garage. There's an existing bus stop at the corner, which is proposed. The applicant is proposing to relocate. That's shown as the star. It's going from the eastern side of North Vermont to the western side, or the applicant proposes to do so. And the site is immediately adjacent to the Ballston West entrance project. This is a project that's proposed to add a second entrance to the Ballston MU Metro Rail Station. I've shown the elevators, which are on site. That's the Metro M, and it's 2 elevator bays proposed. And the staired entrance is shown across Vermont, and that's the red Metro M. And that's going to provide access to that new entrance, mezzanine, station kiosk, and fare gates, and the tunnel and all that that's going to connect to create that exit. And I'll get into a little more detail on that in further slides. So the applicant is requesting a parking reduction based on the off-street parking policy for residential multifamily projects within the metro corridor. This policy allows site plan applicants to request reduced parking rates based on their proximity to metro station entrances, with the rates ranging from 0.2 spaces per unit for sites located closest to a metro entrance, and that's within 1/8 of a mile. That's where this site is located, up to 0.6 spaces per unit for the furthest. So this, within the 0.2, the minimum required under this policy would be 60 spaces for residential, and the applicant is proposing a residential rate of 0.25 spaces per unit, or 78 spaces. And so in addition to that, and calculated separately from that ratio of 0.25, the policy requires providing visitor parking of 0.05 spaces for the first 200 units, which in this case would be 10 spaces required, and the applicant is proposing 6 spaces at this time. For loading, the zoning ordinance requires 3 loading spaces, and that's 2 for residential, 1 for retail. The applicant is proposing 2. The dimensions meet our zoning ordinance requirements, but standard site plan conditions require 1 of those to be longer. So 1 is a 30-foot, and 1 has to be at least a 40-foot in length. and both are proposed at 30 feet. And it's also, the site plan conditions require if one of these is being used for trash, which it is, that it will be at 15 feet in height. The applicant is proposing 14 feet in height. And there is a large kind of surface driveway due to the nature of this site with it being off, the loading and access being through the Continental property. There's this large driveway. The red is the property line. So the concern could be, the site plan conditions also require loading activities happen behind closed garage doors. That if that 40-foot truck came, would they be able to close the doors, or would those loading activities spill out? All right.
Button, or do you want to go back?
No, don't go. And next we will look at the proposed conditions, starting with Fairfax Drive. And we'll summarize the changes on the right. Within the Roslyn Boston streetscape standards, Fairfax Drive is identified as a special streetscape, which requires a minimum 24-foot wide overall streetscape. And street trees within a 5 by 8 or larger tree pit, setback 3 feet, and a 16-foot clear sidewalk. So you can see the cross section above. The applicant proposes to reduce the overall width of Fairfax Drive to 92 feet by slightly narrowing travel lanes and parking lanes, but the overall configuration is unchanged from today. In terms of streetscape, the applicant is proposing to meet that 24-foot wide overall streetscape, and that they're proposing a 0.67-foot step-out zone, a 6-foot wide tree pit, an 8-foot wide clear sidewalk, and a minimum 9.3-foot building shy zone. And then we'll look at Fairfax Drive. Vermont Drive Street. And that's identified as a secondary streetscape, requires a minimum of 14 feet, plus the 6-foot building setback totaling 20 feet. And that consists of a 6.67-foot step-out zone, a 5-foot wide tree pit, and an 8.3-foot wide clear sidewalk. And the applicant is proposing 16-foot streetscape, a 5-foot wide tree pit, an 8-foot wide sidewalk, and a 3-foot wide building zone. And the alleys are off-site, so we don't cover those. But I do want to talk about the Boston MU Metro Station West project. These are kind of some more detailed schematics. And you can see the head house of the elevator in white and the illustrative. You can kind of see how the stairs and the elevator are going to work and everything. And so this project is fully funded. They have completed their 35% design, and they're currently in the contract negotiation phase. This phase should take about 8 to 12 weeks as they negotiate that contract. And after that contract is negotiated, notice to proceed is issued to the design builder, and that's when they'll resume that design and pick up from the 35 and meet those other start designing those other major milestones in the design. So for now, we're looking at construction.
I'll do a carry out, but something else.
Everyone make sure their mics are muted, please.
We're in America.
Muted, please.
Okay.
Karen, I think you're unmuted.
Just pull your mouse straight down. I think they muted it.
I don't know why.
I think they muted it, so they muted the mute.
Oh, okay. All right. Dan, let's work.
Yeah, and that's so we're looking at construction to be completed in late 2020.
Okay, I'm just in the interest of time. These are available. I can always come back to these slides. I do want for people who are here who are not familiar with our public process, very briefly, We have a long public review process. We had the online engagement, January 15th to 25th. We had, which is summarized on the county webpage. The project webpage for this, we had about 300 comments, I can't remember specifically how many commenters, but it was very good. SPRC meeting number 1, that's where we are. There's another one, March 12th, hopefully where we would wrap up. Also, one thing on the agenda we would do is also briefly talk about the construction timeline and staging, since I know people are interested in that. Public hearings are still not set at this time. I think it would be late spring if so. So the project webpage is always updated with new information and with our agendas, and all the materials that you've seen are on the county webpage, but we'll be happy to go back, and we have a whole bunch of extra slides to help the discussion. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. And now we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Yep, and Nick Cummings here. John Carden is going to start our presentation off, and then we're going to hear a little bit from Tom Corrado from Hickok Cole, who's going to go over the design, and then close out with Felice Brichta from Grove Slade, speaking about transportation. Everybody on our team, let's try to be efficient. We don't want to repeat anything that staff just went over. So go ahead.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everybody. My name is John Carden, and I'm Managing Director of Development at ARIA Development Group. I'm here tonight representing ARIA Boston LLC, which is the applicant for the development at 4420 North Fairfax Drive. ARIA is a boutique real estate development company with 16 years of experience developing and renovating residential communities in the Washington, D.C. area, as well as other cities such as Miami, New York, Nashville, Charlotte, and Kansas City. Personally, I've been developing multifamily projects in the Washington, D.C. area since 2005. 4420 North Fairfax Drive is ARIA's first project in Northern Virginia, and we are happy to be here. At ARIA, we care a lot about expanding much needed housing supply through creative development projects that have beautiful designs. For each of our projects, we've worked closely with community stakeholders and public officials throughout approval processes to collaboratively deliver beautiful projects that offer much needed housing while respecting the neighborhood context and community goals. I'm joined here today by our team that includes Nick Cummings of Walsh Colucci, Tom Corrado of Hickok Cole Architects, John Ludostansky of Bowman Engineering, Felice Brichta of Grove Slade Transportation Engineers, and Brian Bolin of Parker Rodriguez Landscape Architecture. ARIA Boston LLC purchased 4420 North Fairfax Drive in 2023 and is the outright owner of the property. We are proposing amendments to the existing site plan approval, site plan number 331, to update the project to current code and design standards and to reflect current county standards. Amendments include architectural facade and massing revisions, reduced parking ratio, and new landscaping and streetscapes. Go to the next slide. The property is located in the southeast quadrant of the North Fairfax Drive, North Vermont Street intersection, and is approximately 2 blocks from the Boston Marymount Metro Station. The county and WMATA have been planning for over 20 years for a new metro entrance at this intersection, with 2 elevators to be located at the northwest corner of the subject property, as Daniel just detailed. The property is surrounded by high-rise office and residential buildings and is adjoined to the south by the Continental at Boston residential condominium at 851 North Glebe Road, to the east by the Ellipse office building at 4350 North Fairfax Drive, to the west by North Vermont Street and the Arlington Gateway office building at 901 North Glebe Road, and to the north by North Fairfax Drive. The site is zoned to the COA mixed-use zoning district and is designated as a coordinated mixed-use development district by the county's general land use plan. The site is currently improved with the Fairmont, a 5-story office building constructed in the 1960s under site plan number 6. There are a few existing tenants at the building, including Arlington County Public Schools, which has been temporarily using the building as the location for Arlington Community High School, with plans to relocate the school to its new location at Amazon's headquarters building at Metropolitan Park. Go to the next slide. Originally, the property belonged to site plan number 6, but in 2006, the county board amended site plan number 331 to incorporate the site into the existing site plan known as Arlington Gateway. The site plan has been extended numerous times since, and the approved plans have remained largely unchanged. As it stands today, site plan number 331 provides for an L-shaped 23-story residential building containing a total of 242,846 square feet at a density of 8.84 FAR with 237 dwelling units, 7,088 square feet of retail space, and 241 below-grade parking spaces. As the previous owners of the property never brought the approved site plan to fruition, Aria Boston LLC looks to refresh the approved building with proposed updated building designs. Since acquiring the property, we've been working diligently to prepare plans for the development and have met numerous times with Arlington County government representatives, WMATA entrance project representatives, and neighbors, including the Continental at Boston Condominium and the Boston Virginia Square Civic Association. We are pleased to share with you our plans this evening. Go to the next slide.
Gonna be a little bit of highlights.
Got it. That explains it. The submitted, and I should add that some of the stats that were in the prior presentation by the county officials, we've incorporated feedback that we've heard from the county, and what you see in the statistics and the images here are updated plans from what was just presented. So it's not just saying the same things that you guys just presented. The submitted site plan amendment includes a 22-story mixed-use building containing 302 market rate units and 251,737 square feet of gross floor area at a 9.17 FAR. The building will also include approximately 4,957 square feet of retail or retail equivalent GFA and a 2-level below-grade parking garage with 84 parking spaces. As previously noted, the current site plan approval has remained mostly unchanged, and our proposed massing is very similar to the massing of the existing approval. Given that the existing approval is from 20 years ago, there is need for redesign to bring the site plans into conformance with modern architectural form and current codes and design standards. You may go to the next slide, please. As such, we are proposing changes that will refresh and update the building design while staying within the general parameters of the approved building. The residential lobby will be accessed from North Fairfax Drive. We have planned for 2 retail corners with frontage on North Fairfax Drive and North Vermont Street. We have prioritized bicycle storage with a secured bike room at the ground floor with access from Vermont Street, as well as a second bike room located on the first parking garage level. Site improvements surrounding the property include 24-foot and 17-foot streetscapes on North Fairfax Drive and North Vermont Street, respectively. In response to county's feedback on earlier plans regarding the Fairfax Drive frontage, we have widened the clear sidewalk space along North Fairfax Drive from 8 feet to 10 foot 6 inches, with a 6-foot tree pit zone. Additionally, we've incorporated a 40-foot long curb extension to support the bus stop at the far corner of the Vermont and Fairfax Drive intersection. Also along Fairfax Drive, there's a curb lane of street parking, an existing bike lane, and a curb extension on both sides of the Fairfax Alley. The streetscape at North Fairfax Drive is planned for a 24-foot dimension and is even wider at the curb extension locations. Our plans propose widening Vermont Street to a 28-foot 6 inches to include a proper curb lane for parking, given the existing street does not comfortably accommodate parking. We are also planning for a curb extension at the corner. An 8-foot clear sidewalk and a 6-foot tree pit zone will be located on the North Vermont Street frontage. The streetscape at Vermont Street is planned for a 17-foot total dimension and is even wider at the curb extension at the corner. The Vermont and Fairfax alleys will be improved with minimum 8-foot and 10-foot variable width clear sidewalks, respectively. The widened sidewalks and landscape buffers will create a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere. We have heard from neighbors in the community at the Continental at Boston Condominium and the Boston Virginia Square Civic Association that there is a desire to offer pet amenities to residents of our building so that we can help to minimize the impact of pet relief on the surrounding landscaping. To that end, we are pleased to share that we have updated our plans to include a pet run in the rear of the property. I'd like to turn the presentation over for the next part to Tom Corrado of Hickok Cole, who can detail the architecture and building form.
Great, thank you, John. So you can see on the screen here.
Let's keep this real quick and kind of try to breeze through it because I think we want to leave enough time for discussion. We're almost at 7:45, so just real quick, just get through it. I can help with feedback. Go for
No
it.
problem. So comparison of the previous approved design and our current proposal. Similar to the previous design, the current building is made up of two major massing components, the tower component that extends the height of the 246 feet, and the podium component, which you see kind of at the bottom, which is the lower portion of the building that fronts Vermont and forms an L shape. So overall, the height is the same. And you can see in this diagram that the proposed height of the new podium is a little bit lower. You'll see here the north facade on the left-hand side and the south facade. The building is a contemporary architectural design, quality materials and streamlined design to provide residents with a welcoming, living and livable environment. We look to, so the north facade has a lot of glazing, and as you move around the building, you see that we start to solid and reduce the overall window sizing, but the opportunities is to really allow for stability. Building will be made up of masonry precast panels, floor to ceiling glazing, architectural metal detailing, and some other architectural detail. Keep going, please, Jess. Next, the plans themselves, and then you can see there's two renderings. The shape of the building, how it kind of leaves itself around the corners, the metro, the new metro station. The building sets back. It really tries to take advantage of the views that overall text that the site allows. The planning of the building is designed that the lower portions of the plan are higher density with smaller units to really fit out the entirety of the L-shaped footprint. As you move vertically through the building up to level 10, will house, you can see on the image on the left-hand side, is a residential amenity deck that will have opportunity for outdoor space and greenery. And as you move through, continue as you go into the tower, a component of the building, levels 12 through 22, the units get to be a little bit larger, and all the way up to the penthouse where there's an additional residential amenity and terrace to, again, take advantage of the views, especially to the northeast and back to the Washington, D.C. And then that also houses the mechanical penthouse.
I think our next slide is probably the site improvements.
Sure.
John, I can walk through these quickly if you don't mind.
I can do it. So momentarily, you'll see a more detailed look at the landscape and streetscape plans. There it is. As mentioned previously, the North Fairfax Drive streetscape will be 24-foot wide, and North Vermont Street streetscape will be 17-foot wide, with even greater width where there are curb extensions. These large streetscapes will dramatically improve conditions for pedestrians. A 40-foot long curb extension along Fairfax Drive with a clear sidewalk zone for the bus stop brings the current outdated bus stop up to date with current county standards and ensures buses have easy access to the new metro entrance, that riders will be able to safely access the bus. There will also be a parking lane and bike lane on North Fairfax Drive, and we are proposing to widen Vermont Street with plans for a true parking lane on the east side of Vermont Street. We're planning, as stated earlier, we're planning for large 6-foot tree pits on both frontages that range in length from 12 foot to 15 feet. Earlier plans did show narrower 5-foot tree pits on Vermont Street, but we've increased those widths. These generously sized tree pits will foster the growth of trees that will help cool the site, provide shade for pedestrians, and create an attractive streetscape for the community nearby the new metro entrance. Widened sidewalks and shy zones are proposed on both street frontages to support pedestrian movement, with clear sidewalks of 10'6" on Fairfax Drive and 8 foot on Vermont Street. We're planning for a wide sidewalk that surrounds the entire building on the interior site, which is shown by this pink arrow. And it's in a direct straight pathway that doesn't circumnavigate around parking in the rear that used to be there. And in that space where parking used to be, we've added the pet run. And in between the pet run and our garage entrance, we're planning for a buffer zone of trees, which will help to screen the view of the garage ramp. We are planning for shrubbery and ground cover along the eastern property line and a planter zone that is in front of our lobby. And we have landscaping also planned on the 10th floor amenity deck and a green roof at the top of the building. Next slide gets into parking, loading, and transportation. You can see that the 2-level below-grade parking garage will be accessible by the Fairfax Alley to the east, where that green arrow is. The loading access will be provided from the south portion of the parcel via Vermont Alley, where that other green arrow is. And a total of 88 parking spaces are proposed to be provided. Note that is a reduction from what we previously submitted, given the removal of the spaces in the rear. Of these, 84 spaces are for residential use and 6 spaces are for residential visitors. 4 of these spaces are located at the surface level to the east of the building. A total of 122 long-term and 10 short-term bicycle parking spaces are supposed to be provided. The secure bicycle storage facility is located on the ground floor with direct access to North Vermont Street and a secondary room on the first level of the garage. Our proposed parking ratio for residential use is 0.272 spaces per dwelling unit. Modification for the proposed residential parking ratio has been requested along with the major site plan amendment. As everybody knows, the property is located within a transit-rich neighborhood of the Boston area. The Boston Marymount Metro Station is approximately 0.1 miles away from the site, and an additional metro entrance is planned immediately adjacent to the site. 16 different bus routes are accessible within a quarter mile of the site, and several on and off-street bicycle facilities surround the site. Vehicular and loading circulation routes will utilize all the frontages available along the property for access and have been designed with consideration for the shared uses of the alley network by the Continental of Boston condominium. The bicycle and pedestrian experience on the site will be improved as there are multiple access points to the site along Fairfax Drive, Vermont Street, and both alleyways. You want to go to the next slide? Yeah. I'll just get into it. Loading vehicles will be able to access the Vermont Alley with ease as the inbound loading can enter from either North Vermont Street or North Fairfax Drive. Similarly, the outbound loading traffic will simply be able to pull out directly onto North Vermont Street or North Fairfax Drive. Our transportation engineers have studied the turning maneuverability and are confident that the truck and vehicle turns work successfully without issue. A transportation management plan will also be put in place for the property, providing benefits such as facilities improvement, participation in funding, promotions, services, and policies, and performance monitoring. So here's our inbound and outbound truck maneuvering showing the turning diagrams.
Yeah,
the changes. Pretty much there. So we thought it might be helpful to share how the site plan has evolved since we met multiple times with the neighbors at the Continental at Boston, Virginia Square, and with Arlington County representatives. So you can see how we've removed the surface parking in the rear, which is shown in the left image, and replaced it with the pet run in the right image, and the more direct sidewalk path around that. You can also see the curb extension at the north side of the property along Fairfax. Previously it was just a small extension at the corner. Now it's extended the length for a bus stop. And we've reduced the extent of planter boxes. You can see in the left image, there was a strip of planting to enclose a plaza. And now that plaza is more open and has a shorter depth planter box in front of the lobby.
It would also be private. We're not proposing that that's a public plaza of any sort, and it's not part of the streetscape, nor is it necessary to reach those clear minimums. So it's likely that would probably be outdoor dining for a restaurant if it took tenancy.
And you can't really tell in this image, but we widened the tree boxes actually along Vermont Street by a foot. So we greatly appreciate the input we've received from the county officials, from our neighbors, and we really take it to heart and appreciate the feedback and have incorporated what we think will be a fantastic project for the community, right at front doors and
Thank you all very much. So we're just going to go right into it. If you have any transportation related questions, now first.
Just quick question, maybe I missed it. Where does somebody pick up, drop off in between Amazon and yes?
So North Vermont, just along as you, that is a county street, but along this sort of like building here, Vermont here,
right.
We're going to ask for 15-minute parking along down the street, which is the county's, preferred solution, these sorts of things. Obviously, when we had the horse surface parking spaces in the back, they could have served that purpose. That was part of our argument for keeping them. But we do have those street spaces that we think could be useful.
So if the lobby is on Fairfax and people are, it's raining, snowing or whatever, they're gonna pop out there. Do we anticipate or how do we prevent the bus lane there being used for that? I guess it's just the shortest means for a person to get there and Uber not knowing your rules. I'm just curious, that's gonna, to me, it's gonna require a lot of.
Yeah, just to clarify, Nick, I don't know that we've actually spoken about which street gets the short
Yeah.
parking. We're open to that being right in front of the lobby if that makes more sense to have a shorter pickup drop-off zone. There's only a few spaces on that street because of the curb extension, but we're open to some.
I think you need to think about that.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
It may well be.
This is Elizabeth. No, this is Elizabeth from the Disability Advisory Commission.
Elizabeth, could you hold for a second? We're in the middle. I'll call you next, okay?
Okay, sorry.
All right, thank you.
All I was gonna say is, we may well ask for all of the spaces to be shorter term, we'll see, right? I mean, it just depends, right? And I was just thinking of Vermont first, but yes.
Okay, and if they are short term, because as we've heard in other SPRCs and other neighborhoods, those they're not exactly short term for some people. It's all of a sudden they're out there all day.
Yeah, no, I think what would be preferred by us is a mix of some pickup drop-off, short-term, like 15-minute spaces, and some 2-hour metered parking spaces, as we have a desire for retail customers and tenant prospects to be able to park for more than
Visitors.
Yeah, and visitors too, yeah.
The county is working on better enforcement.
Yes, I know they are. But it seems it would behoove you to educate your residents on the safest place, a constant, and even for the folks who have the retail there, particularly if it's a restaurant and there's a lot of people in and out. Just something.
Yeah, great
Thank
idea.
you.
Thank you.
All right, Elizabeth, you're on.
Thanks. I didn't mean to speak over people. I was just gonna echo the request that the short-term drop-off zone be right in front of their residential entrance, because for people with disabilities that often cannot walk long distances, they will be pulling up there anyway, just as you said. And that's the only reason I broke in early. I just wanted to echo that we would like to have the drop-off zone directly in front, as close to the front as possible.
Great. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about Fairfax Alley, and they have the remaining four surface parking, one of which is handicap parking. Why do we have them as, and it was originally headed parking. Why are we keeping that headed parking rather than converting them to parallel parking with the planted green strip to the east of that, so that it reads more of just a regular street rather than a parking lot?
I think it was.
You could have the same number of parking spaces for parallel parking rather than head in.
We're certainly open to parallel. I think our goal was to strike the right balance between landscaping and parking and try to maximize surface parking spaces as well. I would be hesitant to do that if we get lower than the 4 spaces. We started at 8.
I'm not saying reduce the number of spaces, I'm saying reorient it so that parallel parking reads more of an urban street, because after all, we do want parking on, and we call for parking on Fairfax Drive. So parallel parking would be very consistent with that. And I think we could probably keep the same amount of green space. It just means moving it around a little.
Sure,
that's
we
all.
can study it.
So I encourage looking at that, because I think as a design issue, it is better for the urban look. And then for staff, transportation staff, something I always wondered why Fairfax Drive is a very, very wide right of way. And yet we still have the bike lane as being outside of the parking lane rather than a protected bike lane, where we have it in way narrower rights of way. We have an actual protected, a cycle track. Why aren't we trying to make Fairfax Drive a cycle track? We have one block of it to the far west and nowhere else. And I bike on that, and frankly, it's a little bit, it's not the most comfortable ride, because you can get doored pretty easily. Traffic's moving fairly fast on Fairfax Drive. So why aren't we looking to have a cycle track along the length of Fairfax Drive where we seem to have pretty good right of way? And this is not for the applicant, this is for staff.
So in the MTP bicycle element, that portion of Fairfax Drive is envisioned for higher comfort, a separated bike lane or separated from traffic, increased comfort there. How exactly that's going to look, we don't know at this point, but it is envisioned to increase the comfort there and create more separation between the bike lane users and the motorists. But right now, we don't look at that on a site plan by site plan basis.
That's why
But,
I'm not talking to the applicant.
But we would like, I will mention that we are doing a Fairfax Drive corridor study, and that's anticipated to begin in mid 2027. So keep your eye out for that, because that study would be the place where we're going to envision exactly what that facility would look like, whether it's cycle track, whether it's a two-way on one side, what exactly that's going to look like, we don't know, but that'll be kind of figured out during that corridor study.
Yeah, I just want to be careful that we're not making permanent changes here that would interfere with whatever we come up with in that study.
And part of our comments that we've shared with the applicant was to ensure we weren't making too many major changes that were going to affect things. So there were certain elements we asked them not to include or to include to kind of like changes to the median and crosswalk locations that we want to look at when we do that corridor study. So we can have a holistic look at the whole corridor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have 4 questions all related. First question is, will there be, I know we haven't discussed unit breakdown, but will there be family sized units in the building?
There'll be a range of. Oh,
Okay. Yeah, there's a reason. Sorry, go ahead.
there'll be a range of units ranging from studios to bedrooms.
Okay. Okay. So one thing that has come up in previous conversations like this is school bus stops. Have you talked about the relocation of a bus stop already? What's the strategy for school buses? Does a school bus stop need to be relocated to?
That's a staff question, I think.
Sure. Anyone can answer.
I'm not sure. We haven't looked at.
Arlington Public Schools does that. We've never, I mean, that's not something we look at.
I've made this recommendation in site plan review committees before, so I'll make it again, but we've seen several site plans that have come forth in the past 3 or 4 years where it's caused pretty treacherous conversations from the community to staff and likewise around school bus safety, particularly with where the school bus pickup drop off are. There are considerations of safety for relocation and distribution of knowledge of where the school bus is, but I would highly recommend that staff reaches out to Arlington County Public Schools to ensure that there isn't a detrimental school bus situation like we saw in a couple of previous ones last year. Please reach out to the school bus entities.
Just to let everybody know, as a matter of course, whenever we have a residential site plan, we do reach out to the APS demographics and they come to us with an estimated student generation always. I can also throw in a question about that too.
That absolutely makes sense. Yeah, there was a site in South Arlington that we passed last year that had a school bus right on the road, and it was a very particular, like, closed road that had a lot of issues already, and the school bus just kind of straw that broke the camel's back. So highly recommend you reach out. What was the strategy for relocating the bus stop? The APS bus, or not APS, the ART bus stop that you guys mentioned. Applicant mentioned they were pushing.
So just to clarify, our initial submission had the bus stop on the west side of the intersection with Vermont. And we heard feedback from the county that the preference was to have it on the far side of the intersection. So the bus crosses the intersection and then pulls over.
Okay.
So that's where you're seeing the plan that's up on the screen. It's in front of our building instead of the opposite side of Vermont.
Excellent.
Our preference was opposite, to have the bus drop off like right in front of the stairs to the metro. But understood the feedback. So
Yeah, makes sense. I appreciate the diagrams of the maneuvering for vehicular traffic. I only recalled seeing trucks and regular vehicles. Did you guys do tests for EMS vehicular maneuvering? like fire trucks and ambulance.
Definitely look at fire trucks.
Okay, we can find. Okay,
Amazing. Yeah.
that's it.
Okay. Thank you. And you're up.
So the plan calls for the 16-foot clear sidewalks. We are only over 8 feet, and so I didn't catch why that was. Is it because when the plan was made, we didn't prioritize trees, and now we do, so we're giving that space to the trees, or is it because we've got the parking on Fairfax Drive, and that's taking up some of the pedestrian clear space?
It's what's taking up the proposed pedestrian clear space, fortunately, is not the trees nor the sidewalk. It was the developer, and if they could bring up maybe their slide, was the planter box that they had in front of their building at the 24-foot level, which shrank it down to 10 feet.
Okay, so it's some
So
biophilia.
it basically is. And staff has been working with the applicant to greatly increase the clear sidewalk width, we think, because we are negotiating. It's coming up to the elevators.
Does that planter box have like stormwater benefits?
That,
Yes, yeah. Brian, could you speak to that?
It's not a stormwater planner. Is really the alignment of it was because of the proposed Wilmata elevators. We wanted to respond to just providing a clear pedestrian sidewalk that didn't run into it. So.
We were trying to soften the feeling of the pedestrian experience as you're looking at the backside of the elevators to have both planting on the backside of them and then frame a lobby, so it's sort of a flowing path, and then that together creates this open space at the corner.
And we came here tonight with this somewhat revised plan, responding to some of the staff comments with, a big step here showing the sidewalk and really within the range that they want to see, replacing some of the surface parking with more natural features, et cetera. And all of that is just, additional feedback. And the goal is that between this meeting and the next meeting, we're going to come back, we're going to have a consensus plan with staff. It will look a lot like this because I think we've made some moves they're probably going to like, but we're going to work with them more on the details. And
So
we'll come back and have.
So to clarify, the 8 foot that you referenced is what we submitted several weeks ago. We've updated that to 10 foot since, and somewhere in between.
Thank you. And in reject, because the microphone's over there. Okay. In regard to the parking space allotment, is the applicant pursuing EV charging? And if so, what percentage of the parking spaces will be charging?
Yes, we are. I believe it's
Yeah, I think it's 4 out of
four spaces to be EV charging.
I'd have to double check with it. Yeah, we are providing. I just don't know the number.
Right.
And that's 4 out of 80-ish total spaces.
You know what level they'll be? They'll be at the P1, the first level does. I meant like the charging level.
We haven't thought that far. The overnight parking doesn't need as fast of a level as a quick public purpose space. So we're not looking to have the fastest charger, but that's fine.
4 spots now and then some can be ready.
Yeah, we could just.
What's the breakdown?
Sorry, Vermont Street is a pretty narrow, short street. Includes the Westin Hotel, Continental Condominium, now include this building. And I wonder if Daniel could address how the transportation management plan come into play after construction. We'll be able to handle any traffic flow issues that might develop.
I'll let the applicant speak a little bit to that, but the TDM plan, the Transportation Demand Management, or TDM, is a strategy to reduce the amount of car trip, single vehicle trips and things like that to reduce the traffic impact. And there's certain programs that the applicant will participate in, metro cards and promoting transit and car share memberships, things like that, to kind of reduce the number of trips to limit the impact.
The best thing that we're doing is that we have a 0.25 parking ratio in the building. Should hopefully be next to a brand new metro entrance, which I think is going to graphics of this building towards folks who are not as car centric in their lifestyle, because a lot of them won't have this building. I don't know, John, if there's more you want to say.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing. Elise, if there's more details on the TDM plan, you're welcome to share them, but we like doing projects in transit-oriented locations. We're looking to widen Vermont Street a little bit so that the cars parking there don't congest up the alley as they do today. Sorry, the street as they do today. That should help provide some relief. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and I could just add to that, there is a monitoring component of the TDM plan. So at certain intervals after construction, there's monitoring that's done that looks at things like number of trips to and from the site, garage occupancy, things like that. So it is something that's looked at.
The other thing, just to follow up on that is, you have the hotel, you have a very popular restaurant, P.F. Chang's, possibly a new retail facility, some drive through. And it might, if you can create a couple of short-term 15-minute parking spaces in that area, I think it might help alleviate some of the demand.
Yeah, I think the county can definitely look at that and what the applicant requests.
You haven't gone yet. Go right ahead.
I was just not making a
Sure. No, it's transportation questions. You got a transportation question? Go for it.
question or comments.
Question. Either.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll start with
Whatever's on your mind.
All right, I'll start with questions. First one, I saw that, I was wondering, why did you remove crossing across Fairfax?
That was in response to feedback from the county.
So what Daniel was mentioning is they're going to study Fairfax and make a coherent set of improvements across the entire corridor, and they told us to pull back.
And I'll add to that. Part of the reason that crosswalk was originally shown on the 2006 approval, and at that time, that intersection was signalized. And so the signalization is no longer proposed there. It's a little too close to leave it, I think. And the county is also constructing a sidewalk at North Utah, or doing sidewalk improvements at North Utah, where we're doing a rapid rectangular flashing beacon at that crosswalk. And so instead of having an unsignalized crosswalk there, we prefer the project, which should be getting started in the next couple months, to actually begin construction. So that's the main reason, is we'd rather we believe it's safer to use the signalized or partially signalized facility instead of unsignalized.
Fairfax is dangerous. Okay, so second, so is there any way to get from the metro entrance into the building without having to go outside? Your elevator is right next to each other.
No, they're separate.
They're separate. And the third is, I guess you added surface parking. I guess why use that space for surface parking?
So we see benefit for a mix of prospective tenants who are coming to visit the building, and if all the spaces on the street are taken, not everybody's going to come by Metro to see the building. So we like to have spaces that we can say you can park here if you're touring the project. We found that other projects it's helpful for. Could also potentially be used for employee parking for retail. But those were our focuses.
Okay. And then my last clarifying question, at least, is the alleyway. So right now, the northeast sort of entrance to the alley, like I know we call it alley, but the northeast entrance alleyway is sort of a raised alleyway, but the southwest one is not. The diagram made it seem like they're both being raised, but I wasn't quite sure. Is that actually happening, or are you going to keep it like road level?
The aprons will be road level. There's no raising of elevations happening. No, I think what we're doing, there's an image up there.
Right.
There's a curb extension at that portion. So the grass area at the top right of the screen, I don't know if it's grass or pledgers, but that will extend out the driveway so that when a car is exiting the alley, you'll be able to see beyond cars that are parked west of the curb extension and have a better sight line. So it's really for safety purpose and to add a little bit more greenery. That doesn't happen in the bottom left of the screen. It's just wasn't part of the plans.
And will either of the crosswalks be raised for the alleys?
The crosswalks are continuous across the driveway, if that's the question. Just for
meeting the side,
or do you have to go down and back?
Fairfax Alley is continuous across today.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying earlier.
So I guess the question is the grade elevation of the sidewalk pavers as they approach the driveway stays flat.
Yeah, so a pedestrian is safer to kind of walk straight through and then as opposed to stepping down a curb and then up a curb again.
Got it. Okay, there's your answer.
And then it's the same for the southwest one, because that one is up and down right now.
Joggers.
Well, today it is, and we're looking at that one, okay.
Commissioner Ventron from the Housing Commission.
Yeah, thank you. On the pickups and drop-offs, I'd like to associate my concerns with Nia. I live in Roslyn with our newer residential developments and the gig economy. It is raising havoc with traffic and blocking traffic. Number two, are the community benefits going to be discussed today or at the next meeting?
That would be the next meeting.
Okay, one question I have though that dovetails with transportation, is the applicant putting in anything for the metro extension?
I can answer that. Mr. Ventron, so starting in 2006, the community benefits package for this project was entirely a contribution to the construction of the metro. It was previously a complex condition that called for the applicant itself to design it and then even build it with the county, which became ridiculously unfeasible, or infeasible, excuse me. And then it pivoted in 2019 to a cash contribution. At this point, the metro funding is largely allocated, and waiting for it to be paid with a certificate of occupancy from this building wouldn't really make sense, because we're hoping that we're building our building at the same time the metro station is being constructed. So I would expect, while we are continuing to negotiate the benefits package with the county, that it's going to go towards something else, because I think all of us are hoping that this metro station shows up soon. Let's put it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully it shows up.
Thank you for the question.
Yes. So comments are fair game, right? Comments?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So to echo one of your comments earlier on the Fairfax Drive situation, we similarly have a lot of concerns about it. I think one of the buildings recently, the J Soul, down the street does not have any short-term parking out front, and I've never walked, drove, or biked past Fairfax Drive, past the J Soul without double parking at least one or two cars there. We feel that one of the better solutions to that is moving the bus stop as proposed originally to the other side of the street and swapping that with the existing handicap parking spot. It allows there to be more room for both a combination of the handicap parking, short-term loading, unloading, 15-minute and 2-hour parking along Fairfax Drive. And then similarly, we sort of echoing the comment that my colleague made on the metro coordination on North Vermont Street specifically. This project is sort of the focus right now, but the reconfiguration of all the road plays in with the metro construction and making sure that the impacts from there being a metro entrance with all of the pickup drop-off traffic that's going to generate cars waiting on the street to pick up their loved ones or Ubers, taxis, etc., is considered in whatever parking ends up being along all the street fronts. We also appreciate the developers' responsiveness in some of the changes around the back conditions. One of the biggest problems with this whole area is the lack of green space. So removing those 4 parking spots in favor of the pet run and the trees is something that will appreciate every day, driving past it, walking past it. On the alley conditions, one condition that we would like to see improvements on is sort of a traffic calming measure. We have a ton of pedestrian traffic. So in this diagram, the rear entrance to the Continental is sort of that bottom cutout right there. It's sort of right across from their loading dock. And so that's going to be the main exit for any pedestrian traffic heading north, heading to the metro, heading northeast along Fairfax Drive. So the sidewalk improvements are great to see with the green space, but just from a traffic calming perspective, we would love to see a pavers used on the alley portion instead of asphalt to slow people down. It's what the North Vermont Street, the private portion of North Vermont Street in the front and the Arlington Gateway development currently uses. And we have found that between pavers and a few small speed bumps, it creates an environment that people feel like they're not driving road, they're driving in a more shared space. Because there's going to be a lot of pedestrians, there's going to be a lot of pets with the pet run, there's going to be a lot of cars and a lot of loading going through those alleys. I think on transportation, that's all I got.
All right. Moving on, Nia.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. One will assume that there's going to be adequate parking there. I'm not questioning the ratios because of the transit-rich nature of the place. But should you get more than of the 302 units, more than the 90-some spaces that you've got, I would have a plan in place of what you're going to do with these people. The same thing would be true for visitor spaces. What is the plan? And I think just educating your residents, don't assume that all of them moving in there are gonna right away know what the transit rich means to them. So whatever you can do to map out resources for them in advance will make it easier for them and then easier for the
I
neighborhood.
just want to interject really quick. That's a standard requirement also of our
Thank you.
TDM is that there always be a professional, full-time, or, you know, somebody who works for the management that is a transportation coordinator, and that they have a kiosk with all that information and
Excellent.
and is a point of contact.
So, and that's good for anybody who didn't know that, like I must have forgotten. And then last but not least, being that there's a smaller space between this building and the Continental, I would just encourage you to have good conversations between the loading people at the Continental and your loading people so that there's some coordination there. So, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm glad to hear that the beacon will be added at Utah Street. I think it's desperately needed, and I think that even with these improvements, you know, it's a very dangerous area. Even adding that, you're going to see a lot of people trying to cross the street where they're not supposed to. And I want to discourage that. I just urge you to consider any other traffic calming measures you can, particularly once you add several hundred new residents right there, because even the intersections are dangerous. So it'll just continue to be an issue. So thank you.
Yeah, I have some follow-ups. First of 0.25 is a great ratio. I'm really happy with that low ratio. We've seen it maybe in Roslyn, one or two buildings. This is really good, so I totally support that. Following up more from staff, when you said that when the metro elevators get built, we want to have the green space, the helping is going to be green on one side to sort of make it look better. Will you have the county participate with Metro in the design of those elevators? Because if we could make them all glass, like a glass pavilion, I think Roslyn, those elevators are more glass than like the one outside the building here, which is solid on most sides. It would be way better looking, of course, gives people more comfort to be able to see in and out, and you can't hide in it. So I'd ask when you do work with Metro on the actual design of that elevator, that it be as transparent as possible on the surface. Then going to the, on the rapid flashing. My concern, did you say that Vermont used to have a plan for a traffic signal there? And doesn't now?
On the 2006 approval, there was a traffic signal proposed.
So instead, there'll be no signal there, but there'll be the rapid flashing beacon on
I think
Utah?
it's instead, the beacon is already proposed kind of separate. This project, as you know, was brought up, it is a safety hazard there, and there's been
But for which intersection is the rapid flashing beacon?
North Utah, so slightly off.
Okay, yeah, I know, I pulled it up here. Here's the concern I have. We're going to be having a metro entrance right on Vermont. I can guarantee you 100% people coming out of the metro are going to cross Fairfax right there. They're not going to walk to Utah. They're not going to walk to Glebe. They're going to want to cross the street to get up into the neighborhood. That's north of. There's a lot of people living up north on the north side of Fairfax Drive. Unless you put a fence and close off that median, make it a solid median that cars can't. People are going to cross right there, 100%. So I really think we want to think through that better and either add the rapid flashing beacon there or a traffic signal there. In fact, I even question rapid flashing beacons in very dense areas. I think they're great where there isn't a huge number of people crossing the street. Where you have a lot of people crossing the street, a traffic signal, I think, is the best way to really control that because there's so many people who are going to be crossing all the time. But if you put a rapid flashing beacon, it's almost going to be consistently, it's going to be always flashing.
I will add another reason we recommended they take off the crosswalk for their proposal is that it's also proposed on the metro plans on their 35% design. So we're saying, and in combination with the changes we might see with the corridor study, we're saying, let's leave it, not have the applicant do it. We'll look at it again, at the metro time, or the metro will, and Arlington County will. I think the problem with the lighting, the signal there is the spacing between North Glebe and that intersection. And there were some other things, at least for motorist safety, that were looked at by VDOT. For the recent STARS study, they looked at some pork chops to do right in, right out only on both sides of North Vermont to prevent that crossing to help increase safety for, there's a lot of accidents there. So those are the reasons we've asked them to take it out now. So the applicant isn't going to be proposing it currently, but it's not, the crosswalk is going to be looked at again with Metro and other safety improvements in general with the corridors.
Because, I mean, right now, I'm not particularly concerned because there's nothing there. But when the metro entrance opens, which presumably is 2029, really strongly, as it's getting close to that, think through that and how to deal with that. Because, like I said, 100% people will be crossing the street there, and not one or two. It's going to be happening quite regularly.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I totally agree with Commissioner Lantelmi, and in looking at the staff presentation, all of the staff slides show that crosswalk there. So I don't think I caught that it wasn't going to be there because I was like, perfect place for it. So thank you for bringing this up, and I think when we have our next presentation, if we can not show that crosswalk there anymore.
They might have pulled it off our plans.
Yeah, I think that's. So that was a comment on the latest. We haven't gotten the most recent, which I don't know if they've taken it off or not, but I'll show you the proposed North Utah. Should be that way. That's the North Utah crosswalk. Yeah.
For what it's worth from the applicant's side, obviously, we originally proposed it, and so please just let us know. Land on this. My only concern with all of this is that I personally, while I want to believe the metro entrance will be built, it's been a long time, and I've heard this story, and we've done this, and we have been hoping that we build many times before. So we'll see.
Right. Commissioner Forrest, can you put a pin in that? I need to move on to the next topic, and if we have enough time, we'll come back. But now we need to move to land use design and, density and site design.
Fine with me.
Yeah, we've given this a lot. All right. Here.
Yeah, I would say this maybe wasn't design and what we were just talking about, which is kind of confused about the timelines across this. Because the metro plan design completion is looking for summer 2027, and then I think they're talking about kicking off a full plan of the traffic design in mid 2027, and maybe this breaking ground around then at the earliest. So it looks like we're going to be cutting down roads and tearing them up. So I just kind of want to know what the timeline with irrigation quality plans.
Yeah, I'll say first, we have been, like I just said, trying to coordinate with Metro for 20 years. And I'd say we, I mean, everybody on the site or represented Team Earth over the time, because in 2006 was originally approved, I was in college. But it's not possible to confidently say, we'll do this at the same time as Metro, so we don't tear up the street at the same time. We would love to do it at the same time. I don't want to tear everything up and rebuild it. We don't want Metro to do that either. That would tear up. But there's not much we can do. John, what more do you want to say?
Yeah,
Meeting with them.
We'll do our best to coordinate if it's feasible to do it. Currently, we have plans in terms of like what it means to our structure, excavation. If we do it, we start before them. If they start concurrent, start after. So we'll be able to build our building either way. And we'll just kind of ride with it.
I'm not worried about Vermont actually being on time with anything, but more about the county coming in and starting to develop a plan for the area as your breaking ground. So I was wondering kind of
Better question, but I don't think, I'll say this, well, Daniel collects his thoughts. I don't think that that study necessarily is hinging on this building. While this building arriving makes a marginal impact, it's, that entire corridor meets all of that investment and safety measures regardless. So this building could never be built. I still think we want to see everyone safety measures put in place.
And that's a study, so I don't know when those actual improvements, like result of that study could be built, because it's pretty far off timeline.
Is the goal, like a sector plan?
No, it wouldn't be a sector plan. It would be something like the Rosslyn Ballston streetscape standards updated to modern standards. The one thing I will say is that the developer is only doing everything behind the proposed new curb. They're not making any changes to the medians and things like that. They're leaving that for us as part of that future study. So the hope is that we're not gonna have to do anything like cut into the sidewalk or anything like that, that stays the same.
So a lot of times our area plans call for green space, tree canopy is really important to us. The green space benefiting heat island impact, just general well-being of the community members. They generally has a stormwater impact. So is this area plan just out of date in that it doesn't call for those things because it's pretty old, or?
Excuse me, that's Ballston sector plan. Ballston sector plan.
Yeah.
But well, most of, so what is your question about the Ballston sector plan?
Well, like a lot of our plans require more green space or open space or tree canopy.
There isn't a specific tree canopy, however, then we go to the county's overall tree canopy goals and also what's in the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance requires 10% of the lot area be landscaped. That could include streetscape. So we're gonna have to, when we talk about landscaping at the next meeting, we're gonna have to make sure that the applicant meets, if they can't meet that 10% threshold, which can also include street trees, what else can they do to mitigate? Now, they have a lot of landscaping offsite, which unfortunately doesn't. That landscaping that they're going to do off of Fairfax Alley is not their property. It's actually Continental. So technically it doesn't count to that 10%. Same thing, the dog run is actually not on their own property. It'll be on whatever easement requirements they have with Continental. So it technically won't qualify. So maybe they might, when they're improved, exceed that 10% threshold. Now we have this as the tree people, our forest and natural resources and the parks department always remind, we have a goal of a 25% total canopy for new projects. There isn't a Spectre plan specific one, but that we default back to that 25% goal, which again is not an ordinance requirement.
Which apply? I mean, what is the?
The only thing that is the ordinance is what controls, we can
So the
only,
10% controls?
the 10% site landscaping is a legal requirement. Whereas the 25% tree canopy is a goal of the Forest and Natural Resources Plan to which we strive toward, but not of legal force, but we put it in that interest.
And they are maximizing their height here. They could not go higher.
Right, this is as tall as the zoning ordinance allows them to be. There is actually a hard cap. In some zoning ordinances, there's wiggle room. This one is.
Okay. I mean, it's slightly disappointing that we don't have more open green space on the site, but I understand that the sector plan does not call for that as a goal. So we guide how you're advising them.
It's very tight property. We really worked hard with our team to incorporate that. So that's the individual.
To follow up on this.
Well, yeah.
Elizabeth, I think I saw your hand up.
I took it down. Thanks.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out, so we don't know at this stage, the percentage of the property that is covered with green space. And we also don't have, or do,
I mean, we know.
oh, you know,
I not off the top of my head, but I'm saying we have we have a lot of tools.
Information that we have not had time to process yet. We will have that at the next meeting where we discuss landscaping is one of the agenda items.
okay, and we just talked, Chandler brought up the idea that, and somebody was talking about the off-site green contributions don't count towards the minimum. But could that count towards the community benefits? So that, for example, a contribution to the tree canopy equity program, or, you know, some contribution to Quincy Park renovation, something along that. So I just wanted to bring that up at this point.
All fair game, I think, those are community facilities.
Yeah, a question, just,
Yeah, you first.
yeah. Just following up on what Kenley said, right now the plans call for a lot of hard space around the metro elevators. Is there a chance that I understand there's a green planting strip there, but is there any chance we could expand the green space?
Can I interject?
Sure.
This is something that staff has also noted to the applicant as an issue. There's going to be a French drain at the rear of the elevators, and Daniel's colleagues at DES and Transit do not think that green space is would be compatible with French drain, but maybe they could move it. Maybe they could do something else in the private plaza they have.
So we've studied that, and I think our perspective to kind of share back to you guys, to share back with the other folks, is the trench drain or French drain is needed based on the existing site conditions because the grading doesn't align with the elevators. But what we're doing is sloping it appropriately for water to drain appropriately. Right? Did I get that right?
Yes, absolutely correct. Yeah.
So there probably is no need for it, and then the planters both absorb water that falls from the sky and just soften the landscape a little bit around the elevator. So,
And we'll share that both with DES as well as Metro, just to confirm that. But so the answer is, so there will be an area for planting now that.
We might be able to work in an alternative or something into the conditions just to protect ourselves against the need to convince Wamata of the truth, which can take too long, right? But we can protect ourselves against that, maybe account for both possibilities.
And to add to Peter's column, one of the other reasons we requested maybe relocating those or looking at a different place is just for ensuring accessibility around in the clear area around the elevator for the user of that elevator to be able to get through and get to the building in a non kind of circuitous way. So
yeah,
that's another reason.
We saw that comment, and we actually looked at it from a different angle where there's like a small tight position that might be a place that could be an unsafe spot for somebody hiding and then jumping out or something like that we wanted to try to avoid. So we were filling it in intentionally with the planter to mitigate that kind of experience.
Speaking of people jumping out, what's your take on passive surveillance on the retail spaces that sound like they might be retail, but they're retail adjacent and not really retail? Like what's happening there that will help maybe with some of the safety, the perceived safety?
It's like eyes on the street.
Eyes on the street.
We tend to put security cameras on the exterior of spaces, particularly around egress doors and come as travel. So we're happy to do that there. We would want to activate those spaces with uses that are either retail outward uses or active amenities within the building. And so they would be used. There would be people looking through windows, wherever, however you use it.
I mean, that space is right next to the metro. So the relationship between, is that a gym or you don't know yet?
It's 5,000 square feet of retail.
Oftentimes
Yeah.
retail space, even after it's built.
There's no like, if it doesn't go to retail, what will it go to, basically? What's the general thought of that? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we have guidelines on what retail equivalent is, things, Minute Clinic by CVS, things that generate foot traffic.
I mean, the lobby, a meeting space for the tenants, and
Yeah, real estate is probably.
That's, yeah, because in that corner specifically, I think we know that near the metro, there's a lot of activity. So I wonder if some of that will transfer to your corner, and how does that, because the cameras aren't going to deter that.
I'll say this, John, you know much better than me, but if the metro entrance is constructed, I think it'll be a pretty decent retail site. We'll see, right?
Yeah.
Retail's challenge.
Yeah,
It's difficult.
Our ideal would be to put real pedestrian oriented, neighborhood oriented retail, cafe, restaurant, whatever.
Right.
But anything I say today is not going to be.
No, of course, you can't tell.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Hopefully the crowd and the foot traffic is exactly like it's being described by many people in this room, and it's good, but we just don't
Yeah,
Any comments on architecture too? By all
we can.
Yeah, that will.
Okay,
throwing that
great.
one in there.
So.
Especially. Architecture.
So I guess my question is really about the orientation of the building, because it's the southwest facade is going to be very hot. And so heat gain issues, because I know you've addressed the back side is going to be more brick and less glass, but that southwest corner, the southwest corner, the Fairfax and Vermont corner is going to get a lot of heat gain. So I'm wondering if there's a way to articulate this building so that it wraps into, it follows the sun path rather than just front and back. You see that? So the balconies are going to provide some help with that, because for those, the usually Western light that comes in horizontally, so there's not a lot of protection from it that just comes from shape. You actually have to provide glazing that is particular, or maybe not so much glazing. I'm just wondering if there's any provision, any attention to that.
Tom, do you have any thoughts?
Balconies are intended to help with some.
Right, I see that.
Especially as you get higher. Other than that, it's, no, it's intended to be glass.
Right. Can you go to the rear element?
You're gonna need to do some energy studies then.
Yeah,
because
no,
that's
we
gonna
have an energy consultant, energy model
Yeah.
for the building. For green roof on the top to help with cooling. The back also has a portion of the building that's opaque and not glass.
Yeah, that's in the back,
So
though,
that-
right? That's,
Right.
It's just around that. It's just like.
it's the, I don't know what to call it. That's the northwest, western
elevation.
corner.
It's.
Yeah.
Most of that corner is actually.
There it is. So you can see the right image all the way on the left. I think that's pretty much exactly where you're referencing.
Yes, and that's towards the back, which is already protected by the building next to it. So all those balconies there, they're actually facing Fairfax. They're not going to be enough to really help with the heat gain.
Okay.
So I'm just, it's an honest question
Yeah.
about, whether you should address it or not, because you've addressed the front and back. So it just gave me the idea that there's maybe a way for you to blend that,
Like what?
those two sides.
Your suggestions.
When you have more solid brick on the back and more glaze in the front, maybe there's some of that intersection in that corner becomes less transparent and more opaque.
Okay.
And also it's a way to articulate the corner.
I mean, our bottom 10 floors are masonry as it fully wraps around. So
Yeah.
the glassy portion is from 11 and up.
Which is where the Hassan is going to hit the most. Sorry to say. So any kind of vertical garden and features, and I know that it's controversial, but something that pays attention to that. Also because your footprint is actually has a lot of articulation, but then it's basically extruded up past the 10th floor. So I'm just wondering if there's something there that maybe is more interesting in that corner that can also address this problem.
I have a question, going into building that's quite heavy with glass and floor to ceiling. Are you pursuing bird-friendly glass, and to what height of the building?
That's something that's kind of new to us. We're happy to look into the implications. I've heard there's some significant costs related to it. The economics of the project are not with great margin to be able to do something like that.
I'll pipe in too. This is so similar to, I think One Roslyn had to deal with some of the same challenges with a small site. Participating in, for example, the Green Building Incentive Plan becomes totally cost defeating. There's just no point whatsoever. You don't get enough density to even come close to meriting the cost of the investment, given that the density you would otherwise need to earn is priced totally differently by the county. So I don't think we're participating in the GBI necessarily. We're still evaluating, but we're thinking about that. It's very difficult. We would still be looking at LEED certification for the building, of course, but the glass is an entirely different investment. And I think that project was dealing, I don't know how they resolved it ultimately, but it was dealing with the same thing where it's a lot of glass, it's expensive, and it's a difficult thing to do.
I wonder if it's something that would be able to be entertained as part of the community benefits to like go towards that.
That's why I mentioned the GBIP is typically it would be, but it's part of that program. And that's an FAR based bonus, which means that it's based on your site area. Our site area is 20,000 square feet. So you'd only get about 5,000 square feet of density out of it, which at $45 a foot is worth X, but that's a fraction of the cost of doing green building.
Yeah, no, I was talking specifically about the bird glass.
I agree. And so we could look into that. That would be difficult for that.
Yes.
To me, I think it's really something worthy of a lot of attention. The building is going to be, I think, one of the highest around. And even with the glass does attract birds, going to be a real target, especially in migration season. We have gone to a lot of effort in the county with the Boston Wetlands Pond right there. So I would really hate to see that happen. Now, I really love the suggestion of the green corner. And maybe, you know, that's one of the mitigating things that people can do for glass is hang stuff in front of it so that the birds don't get confused. So perhaps there is a green solution and the glass is too expensive. But really hope that you will give it your all. Thank you.
I just want to kind of echo the point about the bird safety glass. It was mentioned in the previous staff report and also at the October meeting that you guys had with the Civic Association. Somebody had mentioned that as well. So just wanted to mention that other people had brought that up elsewhere. So
Yeah, I just want to align myself with Commissioner Parker's comments, and I'm surprised the tree guy hasn't said anything yet, but anyway. just before we get to the, you know, I would love to see some sort of other alternatives that you guys are exploring and an effort made, whether it's bird friendly or however you've done it. And Forestry and Natural Resources, I know that they also have, because I've used them myself. They're not decals, they're things that can go on the windows. They're like $30, and they don't look like the old fashioned crow picture or anything like that. They're really very, and they're effective at what they do. So there's a lot of other ways that you can look at this, but the last thing you want, as she said, we spend a lot of time, and if you've been out to Boston Wetlands there, you do have migratory birds, and this is going to be a very big building. You don't want people to come out and see dead birds around. So whatever you can do as this process continues to address that, the birds would appreciate that.
At a bare minimum, back with more sex.
Okay, tree guys. Elizabeth, and then we're gonna have to wrap things up after that. Just 'cause we're running.
Yes. So are you planning on, what percentage are you planning on for lower income housing?
So for affordable housing, that would factor into the community benefit package. And we're going to be discussing that with staff and then taking in more feedback in the next meeting. I appreciate you mentioning that. I was talking with staff about it today. I know that at a minimum, we're going to look at that as an option, but we'll see.
Okay, great.
All right, so we actually have to cut for a couple more. So go quick, hard cut off at 8:50, and then we're gonna cut to public comment. So
Transportation covers birds, so I'm gonna go myself behind the glass comments.
Thank you.
I had two quick things. One thing on glass, one of our concerns is reflection in the south side of the building with our building being south of them. So I think we talked earlier, looking forward to some more studies that sort of show how those reflections are going to be interacting with our windows and if we're going to get blasted with sunlight. Secondly, we touched on the metro coordination earlier. That's fair game here. One thing we would say is anything the county can possibly do to ensure the metro is and can be coordinating with this project would be incredible for us. Living next to a development 50 feet away from us is going to be challenging alone. Living next to the metro entrance coordination 10 feet away from that is going to be probably even worse. And this is going to be, between the two of them, 5+ years potentially, between the Fairfax Drive restrictions, the questionable ability to access our parking garages, our parking spaces, and the enjoyment of our homes. It's going to be really impactful for the 150 units that directly face this development and the metro.
I live 2
So-
blocks away. I second that.
Yeah.
We want that too.
Yeah, and I know you want that too.
Yeah.
Imagine John opening this building and then during lease
Of
up
course.
next 2 years,
Exactly.
Fairfax Drive is open. That's difficult.
Mhm. And being able to use the property, demolish the building, staging areas to streamline the impact to the alleys, the streets around, would be super
I
important.
have to say, I live on one of the houses, actually just off of Glebe, and I get the glare from the buildings in my, and I'm not even supposed to be in the path. And for some reason, there's something about some time in April where the glare hits and I get it. So that is a real thing because it's blinding.
Yes. Do you see, can you do transportation?
You know what? Why not?
Quick, so I think one, just another raised crosswalk comment, just like level, I think especially with the Vermont. I think we need to raise crosswalk there. People are going to be cutting off Glebe and Fairfax are 92+ feet highways. I agree with the previous comment a couple hours back, I guess, that was around crossing of the Fairfax. If you end up having that, make the bike lane protected. I don't really think that we can wait 10 years, 3 years for this study, and then like another 7-10 years for like a protected bike lane, move the bike lane in, island, and then the other side, the north side, that's not on you. Because the eastbound is, I would challenge anyone to find the worst Arlington County owned bike lane, the eastbound on Fairfax, 2 blocks west, 2 blocks east. That is by far the worst, like dangerous. I would have.
Don't say that too loudly. People will come back with their opinions.
Yeah, then we need a list, right? Okay, and then pickup drop off, I think, you're let me just kind of combine this with my next point. Vermont has spent, or Arlington, someone's spending $200 million for this entrance. You're widening Vermont, putting parking in front of someone coming out of the metro entrance. Seems like a kind of waste of space. I support having more pickup drop off, would be supportive of removing more of the other parking to make it pickup drop off, but it doesn't feel like that's the right placement for that. And then I think overall need more bike surface parking around the building. I think the east entrance has a little bit more. People are probably going to be coming and, maybe not going to the building, maybe going to the metro entrance. I think that could become a worthwhile exercise.
As a cyclist, I value.
Rapid fire, last comments.
2 comments.
Yeah.
One, I heard one Rosalind mentioned, that is the only project in recent history we urge the board to reject. So I hope that's not used as a model anywhere. And then the other one is, I believe sustainability is probably going to be on the next SPRC. I would urge the applicant to bring their sustainability expert. You'd think that would be standard at these meetings. It isn't. And so I just urge you to please bring quick
Okay,
rapid fire.
So quick 4 support items. Love the 0.25 parking ratio, especially where this is located. Please study the parallel parking versus pull-in. Appreciate the new beacon. As we've talked before, putting a crosswalk as close to the metro elevator as possible. Please look into this again with metro, you guys and county. And then I would recommend 1 to 2 long-term handicap visitor parking close to the main entrance to the building and 2 to 3 15-minute parking. Don't recommend having parking for 15-minute parking anywhere outside of the street that the main entrance is on. And one question, you said 4 EV spaces at a probably lower charging level. Will the EV charging be in the residential parking or retail parking sections?
Residential, I think we.
Residential. So we may not have made it clear with our intent. The county comments were that we did not actually need retail parking. So our updated plans, stats reflect all residential and then 6 visitor.
Okay.
So they would all be within the residential spaces on the first floor of the top floor.
Okay. If you hold to that, I would recommend 4 low is fine since it's overnight in the residential, and 2, quicker, rapid in the retail or in the visitor parking. If you just buff it out that way, that's fine too, but please have a mix of both. We are seeing so much EV parking. Having the infrastructure helps the county 5, 10, 15 years to come.
Good. Right. That's it. So we're gonna move to public comment now.
So we have 4 online public comment people and 2 in the room here. It's
Online first.
We'll do online first. So the first comment is from Alex B. You can
Hey,
feel
this
free.
is,
Hi. And
Hey.
you have
sorry about that. Hey, this is Alex Bengendorf. I live in the Continental. I just want to ask a question for the building itself. Can you lower the tower height and raise the podium? The current tower unnecessarily blocks the Continental's roof view, especially since the view over the Continental itself is being used for a mechanical system rather than premium sightlines. A shorter tower might be more respectful of the existing urban fabric.
Are we answering questions now? I thought public comment.
It's public comment. Yeah.
Yes.
But everybody, we're listening and we're taking them under advisement. Thank you. Let me start. The next comment would be Preeti.
Yes, hi. I'm a resident of the Continental as well. I'm concerned about the loading area. As it is, we have deliveries and trash pickup comes by. We have to prioritize trash pickup, and the loading area requires deliveries to move out of the way, which ends up blocking the, both alleyways. So I'm just a little concerned if there's another loading area adjacent to our building, just concerned, how will that work if there's blockage in both alleys because of multiple deliveries or trash pickups? That was all. Thanks.
You. The next public comment online, Saul Phoebus.
Hi, good evening. This is Sol Phoebus. I also live at the Continental. I, like many of us who live in this building, I have huge concerns about this project, and I really wish that the county is considering us due to how close we are to this development. I also shared the sentiment from Alex, who was the first one who spoke about the height of this building. This is going to block our view, the light, also the glare impacts. That's something that is not a fact that we can validate until it happens. I also have concerns about the pollution, not only about the noise during the construction, but more of asbestos and how that's going to impact our air conditioner systems. We do not have a central air conditioner. Our earths are exposed outside. I don't know if that has taken in consideration. That was a big point that we brought to the developers. And yeah, those are my main concerns. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have next, the last speaker online, Jason Schwartz, please.
Hi, I'm Jason Schwartz. Just a couple quick comments. I think this is a really great investment coming in. I know the properties that developers done in other localities. I think this will be a great addition. Really livens up the area. Just a note, I think the Boston sector plan, I know it was noted that that there were some elements that were still up to date, but I think I disagree. I think most people living in this area were not even born when this was done. So I think there's a lot of feasibility and things that could be updated in terms of building form height and overall goals that would be more in line with younger demographics than when this was done back in the, adopted in 1980, but done in the 70s. That's really old. So nice to see 2 levels of garage. Really impressive to have such a tall building with just 2 levels underground. Notes on the cycle track and crossing. I think that's definitely something that this building can't solve, but this is good. This is a long-range issue on Fairfax, especially at the bus terminal. We have buses crossing the bike lane, lots of danger there, but that's not necessarily relevant. know there's been some talk about the glass. I think it's more worth looking into the glass in terms of sun impacts versus bird strikes. Bird strikes, I'm not really worried about. New York City, they estimate about 230,000 bird strikes a year. But in the entire country, there's over 1 billion. So that's significantly below 100 times less, more likely to have a bird strike in New York City than there is in the overall country. So I hope there's not too much effort put on bird glass, but maybe definitely take a look at the sun if that's coming down to the sidewalk or other areas. But yeah, thank you so much, and hope to see this come through.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, so we have, that's the last of the online speakers. We have 2 people in-house here for also 2 minutes. Ryan Arnold.
Hi, everyone. Ryan Arnold. I live in the Continental too. And I just found out about this meeting this morning through an email from the Continental. Wanted to come down here and show my support. I'm a big fan of this kind of thing because I know that Arlington, America, everyone really, the more I read about this, you have a big housing shortage. And this really delivers a lot of units, which is great. And the location couldn't be better. I mean, really, right on top of a new metro station entrance. If they don't have it, it's like just 2 really short blocks down the street to the metro station entrance. And I haven't had a car since 2017. I, moved into the Continental because it lets me live the car-free lifestyle that I value so that I can have a lower carbon footprint and all the rest. And this will let so many more people live that way too and make that same choice, which is not as available nowadays as it should be. Hopefully will be more in the future. So I really appreciate what you've done and where you've done it. And it'll actually, I think, improve the view from my building because now we've got a old bank to look at with a really weird facade. As for speaking of that, the bird-friendly glass, I looked into this a few years ago. I was in DC working for an architecture firm there when the new ordinance coming was going to be about requiring bird-friendly glass in certain buildings. And what I found was that there actually are products that are surprisingly affordable, add very low amount to the cost of the building, and don't even have a lot of grit. It's practically invisible in some cases. If you'd want, I can send you my notes.
Please do.
Okay.
Everyone's been looking. Everyone's been looking at this product. It's been difficult, and we would be thrilled if there's anything you've learned to share with us, because it is a hot issue and a difficult one.
All right. Other than that, the parking, I really like the parking ratio too. Obviously, you probably inferred that from what I said before. Right now, we have a compact space we don't need, so we rent it to our neighbors, and it supplements our income. That's a great solution. Maybe you could work out a deal with the Continental so that people like me can, if there are people in your building that need it.
After a public comment like that, we're going to talk to you. I appreciate everything you said. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker is Sharon Hawthorne.
Me. And I just want to say, I love that this is LEED certified. It has affordable housing. It has lovely park space. It's going to be a great asset to our community. I love that it's tall and it has lots of people who can live there. Thank you so much for your project.
You need to hire them.
There's a lot of communities out these days. I want to be clear, and I have not recruited any of them.
I was just gonna say.
But I love them dearly.
Yes.
All right, so Peter's gonna prelude us into the next.
I will move into the I did not make a slide of the next agenda. It'll be posted online, but with the agenda topics for the next meeting will be any follow-up that the developer changes they might have made since this meeting. And then it would be landscaping and green building sustainability. And as I promised, there's those community benefits, which in this case, at the SPRC level, it's really more getting feedback. It's probably will not have been negotiated. The next meeting is March 12th, as I showed on the previous slide. And also hopefully the applicant might be able to share some ideas about we have talked about the timing of the construction. Maybe they might have a firmer idea, but it's only 3 weeks in the future. So March 12th.
We can speak to the topic of construction. A lot of it is regulated by standard conditions, but we can speak to any of the issues, Continental, et cetera.
Okay, all right, great. So like always, we know you could have been many places on this Tuesday night, Monday night. So thank you for coming to SPRC.
Thank you, everybody, for your input.